All right, so let's
Okay.
go back to the library and we'll start from there.
Need a key to open the door, and that's just what we're going to get right now. I assume you can make your way to the roof easily, so... Okay, we are apparently supposed to get a key in the library. Let me see if I can find where it is.
Well, let's see. So.
And yeah, this is what I've been worried about. All this book stuff is basically leading into a boss. It's hinting at what we might be encountering. Okay, so...
All right, so...
calmly training his bow.
So here we are at the library. But what kind of library has desks that are this huge? Like, even in the real world, like, if it's a tiny library, the desks are usually tinier to accommodate for more books.
Yeah.
Then again, this is a library inside a school, so that's probably why.
Okay, so apparently on the roof now, after reading the library stuff, there's a door that should be able to be opened.
All right, to the roof.
Okay. I know that somebody's gonna give us crap. Like, how not hardcore of you guys? Guys, it's been a while since It's been a while since Romney has played this.
Actually,
I've never played it.
Well, yeah, this is my first time playing Silent Hill.
Oh, really? Okay, well, there you go. That explains things.
Yeah, because this is my first time playing the original, because this is probably going to get a bunch of Silent Hill fans to scream. My first game was Homecoming.
Oh, yeah.
And before that, my first exposure to Silent Hill was the movies.
Yeah.
And like that, I hear the screaming of 1,000 voices.
Yeah, sorry guys. Like, my exposure was Resident Evil. Like, that's how I knew Silent Hill existed. Was because I was in the Resident...
there we go.
There's a hanging key. It's just out of reach. So we need to have an item, I guess, to pick it up.
Maybe? Should I try it?
Let's use the rubber ball.
I mean, will it bounce the key out, or will it just get stuck down there?
Why not? Can't use it here.
Well, I mean, if this game functioned on Sierra logic, that would be... It's like, okay, if that was like the Sierra Moon logic...
Yeah, the guide that I'm looking at says that there should be a second door on the roof that we can open now, that we weren't able to before.
Alright, so there's the drainage valve. More drainage stuff.
And I don't think that's the door they're talking about.
And these are just skylights. Okay, let's see. Because if there's a door up here, it should be on the map, but it isn't.
The second floor, and you will reach the roof. In the roof area, head forward and enter the door. Now you're in the roof. Check the far corner. Okay, so the door you came in, and you will see a valve and a drainage passage with 2 holes. Check the far hole, and you will be able to see a key stuck in it. Go and open the valve.
Oh.
And now we'll be able to get it. Okay.
Now it makes sense.
Wow, this game will not let you use items unless there's a foreseeable need.
It's almost like it took influence from adventure games or something.
You know what? I wouldn't be surprised. It drains into the wrong hole. Maybe I could plug that up somehow.
And now it makes sense.
So now we can plug the grating and probably reach the key. Okay, so... Oh, nothing special. We can plug that up with the rubber ball, probably. Because, wow, this game does run on adventure game logic. Which is really funny, considering one of the other games we considered for this was an adventure game.
Yeah. And I mean, to be fair, even Resident Evil took influence from adventure games where you had to find the item, get it to the right place.
Yeah, it's one of the things that I love about Resident Evil is that you have these complex puzzles in between all the zombies.
Now to see if the key will float up, because apparently keys float in this universe.
Yes. Well, because hell dimension and weird physics.
Well, I mean, it is somewhat possible depending on the type of metal.
Key went down the drain. Oh, it might be down on the second floor now.
Water go down the hole.
Wow, you know Tiny Toons references. I guess I shouldn't be surprised at this. you are technically the youngest on the podcast, but not that young.
Yeah, like I've only just barely turned 27. That's my age.
It almost makes me kind of cry. I kind of wish that Tiny Toons was on a DVD set so I could get it for my kids.
Well, I thought that they released that it had a home video release, at least in some capacity.
No, I know that
because I know Animaniacs has been released on DVD.
Animaniacs got one, but I think it's the Tiny Toons movie.
Oh yeah, the movie. Yeah, because I know the series has had some sort of release. Because I know they've also released Freakazoid and other shows like that.
But Freakazoid's barely, isn't it?
Like barely, and because again, Warner Brothers has been kind of trying to make a push since their home video market tends to be doing far better than, well, a lot of stuff as of late.
Yeah.
Like, so far the only successes they've got going for them, I mean, well, aside from a couple of DC movies, you've got basically Mortal Kombat and Injustice, and then you've got whatever they can wring out of Lord of the Rings, and then
Harry Potter.
Oh yeah, and then their straight-to-video animated films tend to do really, really well.
Mm.
Even if they're not the greatest films.
Speaking of, are you remotely excited for MK11?
Not really, because I didn't really play, I didn't really play Mortal Kombat X because...
I'm only excited, but only because I want to see where the story goes. And I don't know if I want to buy a game. Like, this is a weird conundrum that I have, because I play games for story, but fighting games, to only buy them for the story, like I'm never going to play the versus mode or anything like that.
Yeah, that's...
kind of a hard buy now.
Yeah, mainly because that kind of died off a bit. The only game recently that's kind of catered to that market in any way has been Soul Calibur 6.
Yeah.
And I mean, I kind of understand it. It's just the main thing for me, it's not even so much the story. I mean, granted, I didn't really like the story of Mortal Kombat 9 since it was basically an idiot ball plot. Whereas, the main thing for me is that compared to other fighting games, Mortal Kombat just feels slow to me.
Well, it's one of those things that makes me giggle now. Like, I'm not going to say that MK9 or MKX's story has been gold, but at least it's better than the convolution that we would get back in the arcade days when you had to go out and look for what the plot was. And so they tried to summarize the events of all the games as best as they possibly could. But
Yeah.
I'll at least give some credit to NetherRealm. They're at least telling a story, whereas Capcom, I don't know what you're doing with Street Fighter V anymore.
And I don't think Capcom knows either.
No.
And yeah,
I know that there's a story mode, but
honestly,
I've been told that it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, honestly, if you want good Street Fighter stories, you're better off reading the comics, because the people at Udon seem to have an understanding of how to tell a decent story with the characters.
Yeah, I would even say from what people who have experienced the story mode have told me, the animated movie has a better plot than it.
Yeah,
So-
like the first one. The alpha movies is where things kind of
Yeah,
go
the alpha
crap.
movies is where things got weird, and frankly, the alpha movies are why I don't like Satsui no Hado. Or at least I don't like the evil Ryu concept of it, where
Yeah.
he constantly has to keep himself in check.
Yeah, and especially considering that Street Fighter Alpha, the initial idea behind the first Alpha game was, hey, let's retell the story of the original Street Fighter, because the original Street Fighter is kind of crap.
And funniest thing, my favorite part of the Street Fighter series is the Alpha series.
Yeah.
If for no other reason than it gave me my favorite character, Guy.
Well, technically, Guy existed prior to Alpha.
No, but I mean, like, giving him as a fighting game character.
Yeah.
Because I think I played one Final Fight cabinet that I came across that had Guy on it, but for some reason around me locally, it was like the Super Nintendo game where all the arcade cabinets had Cody and Hagar, but they didn't have Guy. It's like, what the crap? And then everybody likes to tell me, oh yeah, all Final Fight machines, they all had Guy in them. No, I played cabinets that didn't have Guy.
Yeah. And I mean, for all we know, it could have been basically just a cabinet that was running off of the SNES
It
version.
could be, yeah.
Because that was a way some arcade owners would have to do things, because Nintendo had their... Like, a good example is Nintendo had their Play Choice 10 machines that had all the NES games. It just reworked for arcades, which is why you can't do the infinite lives trick in Mario in those cabinets. Alright, so which room would the drain be?
I almost wonder if it would be in the library. Well, okay, so
yeah, because we were just
if
there.
you had to go up the upper left corner, then okay, when we see the barred off kind of thing, does that mean we can't go?
Yeah,
in
that means
them?
we can't go into those rooms.
So at that point, the only room that makes sense is the library reserve,
which I was just in. So maybe it's somewhere on the first floor, maybe, or the bathrooms.
There you go.
I feel kind of stupid. I'm just like, of course.
We're having a lot of moments like that with Silent Hill. It's like, dong. Why didn't we think of that? That's why. But which bathroom would it be?
Well, given that the men's room didn't have any items, I'm guessing that that's where the keys are going to end up. Like
Is the upstairs bathroom the one that had the shotgun?
Yeah, I think so.
You know what? The upstairs bathroom kind of makes sense now, because this is where the music is.
Okay.
Are we ready to fight the
How
giant
the heck
lizard
did I
monster?
get to that bathroom, then? Let's see. 'Cause I know there was like a door I unlocked that allowed me to go there.
Oh, okay. Go through the double door, I think. Yeah, so...
Yeah, so we're on the second floor.
Oh, okay. I'm looking at the first floor.
So it means we'll have to... Let's try going down to the first floor.
Yeah, let's do it.
Because that could be it. Because the arrows are throwing me off.
They are just a little bit. I will be honest, though, that I have strongly considered doing YB Geek episodes this year for Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat. Just because you have MK11 coming out, and we are actually coming up on, I think it's the 31st anniversary of Street Fighter.
Yeah.
So just getting them out of the way. Not sure if I'm going to do them, but...
Yeah. I mean, I still long for the crossover that will probably never be, where they eventually do finally settle the debate, Mortal Kombat versus Street Fighter, but the only reason that it's not going to happen is just because nobody in Japan cares about Mortal Kombat.
No. It's one of those things that the states in Europe have demanded, but Japan is not interested.
Yeah.
And the other thing, too, that here's the thing. Marvel vs. Capcom has worked. Infinite minus, all right? Infinite has a lot of problems, one of which being that for some reason they brought on Rob Liefeld to do character design.
Well, that and the whole, oh, well, nobody remembers the X-Men or the Fantastic Four.
I even heard that there was going to be what I would like to call forgiveness DLC, where basically Capcom would beg for our forgiveness and put in Wolverine.
So basically, what they did with Marvel vs. Capcom 3 with Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3.
Pretty much. So at that point, like that wouldn't have worked, but Marvel vs. Capcom worked. But then we have to consider the opposite, which was Mortal Kombat versus DC Universe. Now, granted, because of that, we got MK9, which was just kind of a revolutionary change to the engine, as well as being able to open the way to do the Injustice games. Okay. But the original game was not received well.
No.
So at that point,
Yeah, and the main reason it wasn't received well was primarily due to the fact that, oh, we have to make it a teen-rated game and tone down the fatalities. You know, the feature that everybody who is a fan...
Say it right, Romney. Heroic brutality.
Well...
Dumbest word ever, by the way. Heroic brutality, there's no such thing.
Yeah, I mean, I can get where they're coming from in the case of, oh, like the heroes of the Justice League don't kill. I mean, that I get, but toning down the fatalities as well.
Except the justification in the story is that they were filled with rage. That's literally what it's called. Yeah, combat rage. And so at that point, it wouldn't have mattered because your head would be clouded. So
yeah,
you could have just had fatalities.
Yeah.
Except it's DC. They didn't want their characters doing fatalities.
Yeah, the DC, the same company that gives us the Red Lantern Corps.
Uh-huh. And then later on, kind of reneged on that decision when Injustice came along and basically created a dark enough universe where fatalities technically could exist.
Yep. Though to be fair, that was after a regime change at Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
Because that was like under the old guard, but then when Sujihara became the CEO, that's when a lot of these changes started to take place.
But the thing that I'm trying to get to here is that Through all of that, we've seen numerous engine changes with both games. I don't know if you could do a game based in some kind of compromise between the two engines anymore. Like with Street Fighter Cross Tekken, you could do that because the engines did look fairly similar, and you could easily kind of average things out to make Ken look like he makes sense in Tekken.
Well, yeah,
right?
And I mean, when you really consider the premise...
But could you do that for Sub-Zero and Ryu? Not really.
Well, I mean, considering just the way the overall story of Tekken and Street Fighter, I mean, Street Fighter Cross Tekken had potential, just Capcom had to screw it up with the decision to do on-disc DLC and then trying to do damage control after everybody found out.
Yep.
Because that was what really killed them, was the fact of, oh, they're doing on-disc DLC. And that basically torpedoed any sales, which is why we're never going to see Namco's answer, which was Tekken Cross Street Fighter, which basically would have been... Because the idea is that Street Fighter Cross Tekken was putting the Tekken characters in a 2D fighter, and then...
This was gonna put Street Fighter in a 3D fighter.
Yeah, which they had tried before with the EX series, but to limited success.
Mm-hmm.
I mean...
And in fact, if I remember correctly, they were trying to get the rights to a lot of those EX characters so they could design them properly.
Mm-hmm.
Because the one that a lot of people like to bring about was Skullomania, I think is how you say it? Skullomania?
Yeah.
He was supposed
Skullomania is SNK, though.
Crap, who is the guy then? He's like a lucha wrestler that was like a skeleton costume in the EX games.
I'm not sure. Like, it rings a bell.
Because he was one of the guys, like, he's a popular character from EX, and so they wanted to bring him in and actually, like, Tekkenize him.
Yeah.
Speaking of fighting games, though, I will tell you one game I'm excited to see this year, and that is the redone Samurai Showdown. I'm very excited to see what SNK, or at least or the company that's working on it, is doing with Samurai Spirits. It's been so long since we've heard from that franchise.
Yep. Okay, so trying to think where else could it have drained to.
Okay, so if it's just blocked, that just means it's locked, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like if it's just a solid block, it's just locked. If it's squiggly, then it's inaccessible.
Could it have gone into the locker room? Locker room kind of makes you think that there would be a drain or there'd be a pipe in there.
That is possible.
And then we'll go in there and the body will come to life.
Yeah, well, that's
Guess what? You're gonna have to deal with humanoid enemies now.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've been shooting spooky gray children with knives, so that's nothing new.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, that. I want Street Fighter versus Mortal Kombat. I've wanted it for years, just to be able to settle debates. But now I'm just kind of sitting there going, I don't know if they can do it.
No.
I don't know if I want to have Ryu doing fatalities, and I don't know if I want to forsake fatalities with MK characters.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and that's kind of the tricky thing, is that there isn't as much. There's not enough overlap to really have it make sense.
No. If you were gonna, in fact, what I think they honestly should do is, like, Warner Brothers should capitalize on the popularity of Injustice and have an MK Injustice kind of crossover, not just DLC characters.
Yeah, like maybe give Mortal Kombat versus DC Universe another try.
As a counter to Marvel versus Capcom. Because right now they've got that window. I've heard talk that Capcom's working on another game, but...
Yeah, especially now with the Disney buyout of 20th Century Fox.
But I'm very doubtful of it, because Infinite just did not sell well.
Yeah, but then again, Capcom can kind of point to... Because again, it was Disney's fault that Infinite didn't do so well.
Yeah. Oh, they just made some bad decisions, like cutting out X-Men characters, cutting out a lot of popular characters there too.
And then
just simply because you didn't have the rights because of movies.
Yeah, and then trying to play it off of, oh, nobody knows those characters, you know.
Yeah,
characters that have been famous for decades upon decades and were more famous than the major characters we used for the Avengers. Because, I mean, prior to the Marvel movies, nobody really even knew who Iron Man was. We knew he existed, but nobody really knew his story, his his personality or why we should actually care wasn't until and that's why Iron Man was such a huge gamble for Marvel.
Okay, you're not gonna like this.